What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Unruly Podcast. It's been a little bit, but definitely much needed. A lot has happened in the sports world since I've been gone. We're going to talk about Donavan Mitchell being traded. We're going to talk about Pat's woes and how I don't think the season is going to end up well. Week 1 is obviously next week, or it's the 6th, so in 5 days. So we're definitely getting ready for that. Going to talk about Week 1 matchups, the biggest matchups. I'm going to talk about who I think is going to win, what the score is going to be, who I think you should probably be betting on. And then we're also going to end it off with probably one of the worst cases we've seen in a while since Deshaun Watson with Matt Ariza. But before we get into all that, let's just start with Donovan Mitchell, where Donovan Mitchell is now not on the Utah Jazz. And we've been talking about it what feels like fucking forever. He was supposed to go to the Knicks. He was supposed to go to this and that. He was supposed to go to the Heat. Obviously, none of those materialized. He's now officially a Cleveland Cavalier. And I know a lot of Knicks fans are upset about it. Which makes me kind of happy as a Celtics fan. But, yeah, when we talk about who I think probably won the trade, it's tough to say now, obviously, when I'm pretty sure the stats are 60% of the team that traded the star player away usually wins. If we look at the Celtics with Kyrie, if we look at Melo going to New York from Denver, obviously both those teams won, and the teams receiving the star player didn't win. But obviously I think this case will be different, but let's get into it. Donovan Mitchell officially has been traded. It was 3 unprotected picks, which is, not gonna lie, kind of crazy. 2 pick swaps. Ochai Ogunjobi, Colin Sexton, who now is getting paid by Utah, 4 years, $72 million, $18 million a year, which is pretty average when I think he wanted to get paid $20 million a year. So he's still getting underpaid as to what he wanted, but I think he fits into that $18 million a year range pretty fairly. I would have said 15 to 18 would have been his range, so kind of capped off. But again, like I was saying, I definitely, at least right now, I think with the young core of Cleveland, you have Darius Garland, you have Mobley, you have Jared Allen, now you have Donovan Mitchell, and yes, they have a very small front court, but that backcourt's insane. And to think we have all these guys for at least 3 years. Donovan Mitchell, they have him for guaranteed for another 3 years. Darius Garland just got signed a 4-year extension. Mobley just got signed. I think his ass locked up for 5 years because he was a rookie last year. Jared Allen, I think he's locked up for another 2 or 3 years. Basically, this young core has a lot of time and a lot of growth that can happen. And Cleveland finally could say they have a team comparable enough to, I wouldn't say they're contenders just yet, but they could slide into that 5th, 6th spot into the East. They're definitely playing locks now, not even playoff locks, not even playoff locks. And they could finally say they have a decent team for the first time post, and you could kind of even say prior to LeBron in the past 20 years. When LeBron has single-handedly kept that franchise afloat, even without being there. So I definitely think it was much needed for Utah. Utah realized they're not going to really win with what they had. They were stagnant every single year. Yes, they were always in the playoffs, but they realized, okay, we could either just keep doing this game where we're in the playoffs, but we know we're not going to win a championship, or we could just completely revamp everything, fire everybody, trade everybody, get as much compensation as we can back, and see what we could do with this. And a lot of people are saying that Utah got fleeced, or are saying Cleveland got fleeced, but when you really think about it, I don't think they got fleeced, because if this team is a 5th seed, you got to think that pick is probably going to be in the 23-ish range, 23 to 25-ish. So that's still not a great pick, considering they probably would have been more of like 15 to 13 otherwise. So it definitely brings them up a level. So those picks aren't as great as they think they're going to be. Pick swaps, obviously we'll see what happens then. They got Colin Sexton, which, I mean, they paid him. I don't think Colin Sexton is the greatest player in return, but if maybe he just needed a fresh start. Cleveland obviously didn't really know how to utilize him as well as he could be. And I think it's going to be a fresh start for everybody needed. I think Utah still obviously does have a bright future when you have Danny Ainge behind the controls doing all this, fleecing basically everybody out of their pockets. So I don't think Utah has to basically hit the panic button right now. Maybe in 2 to 3-ish years, if nothing is really happening, maybe they could say, okay, well, maybe we made a mistake. But I think it's going to work out for both sides. I think Cleveland could be happy with what they got. And Donavan Mitchell finally getting kind of a hopefully cornerstone piece with the other two great uprising stars that they have. Now they have a bona fide star. I think that both teams could really benefit from this trade. And honestly, I think this was probably the best trade that they could have done. Going to the Knicks, I don't see how the Knicks benefit from that, considering they're going to have to give up everybody to get him. And even then, yeah, you could build, if you're Utah, you could build around RJ Barrett, pay him $20 million a year. But at the same time, do we think he's that type of player just yet? Because I wouldn't really want to hitch my wagon to him just yet until I see something. Obviously, we all see the potential. He's gotten better the past couple of years. But I don't know if he's that player just right now where we could say, oh, we need to lock him up for the future. So, like I said, I think Danny Ainge did a great job, found a great trade partner that worked with what his demands were, and definitely got the Jazz into a position for the future that they will succeed. Now, that was enough basketball. Obviously, we have other basketball news. We know for the Celtics, Gallinari got hurt, torn ACL, which sucks. I still think Celtics are going to do good this year, but to move off of basketball, Week 1 NFL matchups. And we have a lot of, I would say, weird games, but obviously Week 1 they kind of try to do, not rivalry, but they try to see who everybody's going to really want to watch that first week, especially. So to start off, I'm just going to read off all the games, and I'm going to go in individually into which games I think are going to be the most interesting, or the rivalry games that I think are actually going to be pretty close, or if they're going to just be complete blowouts. First off, we have the Rams and Bills, who are the Thursday night game, the official game, September 8th at 8:20. I think the Bills got that one. It's going to be tough, though. But like I said, I'm just going to roll through all of them. Then we have Eagles-Lions. I got Eagles winning that one. 49ers-Bears. I got 49ers by a little bit. Bengals-Steelers. I got Bengals by, I don't know. Steelers are a tough team, but I'm going to say at least by a touchdown. You got Dolphins-Bears. You got Patriots-Dolphins. Always a tough rivalry. But I think Pats could hopefully pull this one out of the bag. Browns-Panthers. I think Panthers got this one since I think right now they have the better quarterback. Colts-Texans. Colts should destroy the Texans. Saints-Falcons. It's going to be a toss-up, but I definitely think the Saints have that one. Ravens-Jets. As much as the Jets' future is bright, I don't think they're there yet in the slightest. I think they will be there maybe in a few years. Give it like 3-ish years. They'll probably be at one of the more top teams, but right now they're definitely not. So I'm going Ravens. Jaguars, Commanders. That's a pick'em game. I personally will probably say the Commanders, only because they have a slightly better team, very slightly. But that's realistically a very pick'em game. You have the Packers, Vikings. I got Packers. As much as I don't like Aaron Rodgers, you can't really bet against him. There's just things I've seen him do on the football field I don't think I could ever see another human do in the entirety of the sport. You got Giants, Titans. Obviously, I think the Titans are going to win. I think it's going to be pretty handedly. Derrick Henry's going to be healthy. Obviously, they don't have A.J. Brown, but I still think Treylon Burks is going to be very good. That receiver they picked up with that draft pick that they got to get from A.J. Brown. Next, we have the Raiders-Chargers. Chargers are probably going to win that one. Chiefs, Cardinals. I think Chiefs are going to win that one. I think they're going to shock a lot of people this year. A lot of people are kind of down on them. But I think Pat Mahomes is going to show why he still should be the next golden boy of the NFL. Bucks, Cowboys. I have the Bucks destroying my Cowboys, unfortunately. Even though the Bucks have a lot of kind of drama surrounding them with Tom Brady and Giselle reportedly in a huge fight. They lost Ryan Jensen earlier in training camp. and a lot of other stuff. But I still think they'll pull at least this first game out, and then Broncos Seahawks. And is that even a question? I don't think Seahawks should even be mentioned in the same terms. They're not even close. Not even. No. Anybody who's putting a bet on that is probably just putting a bet, hopefully, to win bank, which you probably won't. If that happens, I'll sell something. I'll sell something here live. But maybe I'll find a Russell Wilson jersey signed, and I'll sell that off. Just not even sell. I'll just give it away free on live if that happens. But I don't think it's going to happen. But as I was saying before, the Week 1 matchups I think you really need to look out for are obviously opening night, Bills over Rams. I think it's going to be Bills win 27-24. I do think it's going to be a close game. It's still a pretty high-scoring game, but I think it's first week. Everybody's kind of still trying to get used to it. I don't think it's going to be as defensive, even though I know the Bills have a very good defense. I just don't think Week 1 is usually the most defensive week. I think everybody's still trying to find all the formations and all that type of stuff. But I still, like I said, I still think I have Bills, who I think are my Super Bowl pick this year, winning 27-24. Next, we have the Panthers. I have the Panthers beating the Browns. I have Baker Mayfield getting his revenge on the Browns, 20-13. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. I think Baker is going to play well enough to win. I still don't think Baker is a quarterback that could win you a Super Bowl. I think he's a good game manager. Like I said, I think against whoever the Browns have at quarterback, I think he's still better. I think for a stat line, just because it's the revenge game, I think he'll have 2 touchdowns, but he will probably have a pick. He'll probably have just under 200 yards, just under, maybe let's say 180 something. And he's always been pretty good completion wise. So I think I'm not even gonna say, maybe let's say 14 for, I don't know, 25, which isn't great, but that's just what I think my imaginary stat line would be for opening week for Baker Mayfield. And yes, I do have them beating the Browns, as I said. Next, Chargers beat the Raiders. I think everybody kind of had this, but it's in division. Everybody's kind of trying to see if the Raiders are going to be any good, considering they have Devontae Adams now. I think they'll surprise some people this year. They'll be in a lot of close games. I just don't think they have enough to really put themselves over any of those teams in that division now, especially with Russ entering that division. It's going to be a tough one for Derek Carr. I think Derek Carr is very underrated. I think a lot of people should give him more props for what he is able to do, but I do think they're going to end up losing 27-17. Justin Herbert's going to have a great game. I don't see. He's also a dark horse to be an MVP candidate this year. He's in line to get paid this year or next year. So I think Chargers got this not pretty handedly, but I think they're going to have a pretty good game. And Chiefs versus the Cards. Now, I have this being 24-13, and a lot of people are going to say, oh, because you were ragging on Kyler earlier in the offseason, you don't think Kyler's going to do that well. That's not why I said that. I say Pat Mahomes is going to shock a lot of people, beating Kyler Murray pretty handedly. I do think Kyler Murray is a good quarterback, and he does usually play very good towards the beginning of the season. I just think this is the greatest matchup for him, considering he's not going to have D-Hop for the first 6 games. Obviously, yes, we know the chemistry him and Hollywood Brown had in college. We have to see how that translates to NFL, especially since they haven't played together in a few years. Next, we have to think about, realistically, obviously I know the Chiefs' defense has never been fantastic. Even that one year they were okay. Yes, they won the Super Bowl, but they still had a lot of open holes, and now they have even more kind of, I'd say, holes. But I also just don't trust the Cardinals' defense without Chandler Jones, J.J. Watt's aging. It's pretty shaky. Obviously, they still have Buda Baker, but it's not the greatest team when you really look at it. And I just think Kyler's probably going to get attacked a little too much with the Kansas City pass rush. I think he's going to get attacked a little too much, maybe get sacked, throw an interception. That's going to just change the game and blow wide open, and I don't think they're going to be able to recover. So I have, again, the Chiefs beating the Cards 24-13 and starting off the season very strong. Now we're going to move on to my team. So let's say we'll start off with the Pats. The Pats this year, we're not looking very good. For Pats fans, I feel bad because I can't even say I feel bad because we've been spoiled for the past 20 years with Tom Brady winning championships year in and year out. And now we're finally starting to realize what everybody else realizes, where it's hard to be good in this league. And it's going to suck for a little bit. Do I think Mac Jones is going to have a decent year this year? Yes. I was very low on Mac Jones when we drafted him, but I'm assuming he's going to continue to grow. This year is kind of going to show if he can be, because by the end of this year, if he's not showing, he's going to be somewhat good, I think we should move up off of him before we have to pay him. Will Bill do that this offseason, or the past couple off seasons? Seems that Bill's just willing to spend money on anybody, so I don't think that will happen. Right now, they have us projected to go 7-10 according to Football Morning in America. And I can't even say I'm wrong or I'm upset about that prediction because we don't very much have a good team. We have a mid quarterback, not very good offensive line. Running backs, we have two very good running backs. Ramondre Stevenson is going to be getting bumped up and hopefully playing more this year, considering he was in the doghouse half of last year. We obviously still have Damian Harris, who I still think is a very good running back and very underrated. Then we look at our pass catchers. Hunter Henry, I still think is very underrated. Nobody really gives him the time of day since he's not on the Chargers anymore, but I still think he's very good. Jonnu Smith, on the other hand, he's a glorified blocker at this point, which sucks. We have Devontae Parker, who I'm hoping is going to have a pretty decent year for us. I'm happy about that. We have Kendrick Bourne, again, hoping to have a pretty good year for us, but these are all number twos. Yes, I could say Devontae Parker was a number one in Miami for a while, but he's getting older now. I think he's in his late 20s. And do I think he could really replicate what he did there in his healthy seasons? I don't even know. It's going to be tough. It really is. It's going to be really tough to see if we could really get it done without anybody on the offensive side other than running backs, and they kind of know that's our bread and butter. So it's going to be very tough to see if we even could come close to Miami, with Miami having Tyreek, Miami, and then obviously we have to worry about the Bills, and the Bills are just blowing everybody in our division out of the water. I still think we're going to be better than the Jets. A lot of people are high on the Jets. I obviously just said I think the Jets will be good in a few years. I don't think they're going to be good right now. I think they still have a long ways to go. I still need to see a lot from Zach Wilson. I didn't see enough last year. A lot of people saw more, I would say, more flashes of greatness than I would say I would have saw. I still need to see if he's more accurate. I still need to see, because he makes great off-platform throws, but I need to see if he could do it from inside the pocket. Obviously, it sucks that the Jets have no offensive line for him to do that. And Mekhi Becton, that offensive tackle that they had, obviously tore his ACL, I believe he tore his ACL again this year. So he's going to be out the entire year. So it's a trying period. We're going to hopefully see that the Jets don't do well, so we could at least be in that third spot, because I think Bills have it pretty handily in that first spot. I think Miami's still going to be pretty good. I think they're probably going to be, let's say, the reverse of us. They're probably going to be 10-7, 11-6 maybe. I'm still not super high on Tua, but when you have Tyreek Hill, you have Jalen Waddle, you have all those guys, it's tough not to be a very good offense. It's very tough not to be a very good offense. He covers a lot of holes for a lot of guys. And a lot of quarterbacks would love to have him on their team. Doesn't matter if he was even just a return guy, if he was just catching screens, because he opens up the game for you so much more. Tua's going to have a lot of fun this year just having that one upgrade. But yeah, like I said, I don't know what the season has in store for us. Obviously, our coaching situation was resolved in a sense. Matt Patricia will be our offensive coordinator. That doesn't make me happy in the slightest because he's known for being a defense guy, and even the last time we saw him with defense, he wasn't that good in obviously the Eagles Super Bowl. That was 2018. And then obviously when he was the head coach for the Lions for those 3 years, he was atrocious. Probably some of the worst times the Lions ever had, and they had an 0-16 season. So I can't even tell you what Bill's thinking. This year, especially on defense, I'm not as worried. We have McCourty, who's going to be great, of course. Judon's still back. Unfortunately, our top corner is still Jalen Mills. I was kind of optimistic last year. I'm a big Dallas fan as well, so I saw him on the Eagles plenty. I was never really afraid of him. I never really thought he was that good. But I thought, maybe new scenery. We're going to use him in spots. Maybe he'll be good. He wasn't. And I don't think he's going to be good this year either. I'd love for him to be, but I don't think that's going to happen. And unfortunately, like I said, I do kind of agree with our record being 7-10. And it sucks. It sucks being a Pats fan right now. It really does. Watching Tom Brady win a Super Bowl the year after he left us. And we're here just kind of befuddling, especially having Bill do the bull drive he's doing right now. And I was talking to a lot of people, and they're kind of saying, if Bill sucks this year and next year, what are we just going to move off of Bill? Because I'd be very inclined to say yes at that point. If it's because by that point that'll be 4 or 5 years of mediocre or losing records, so I'd say you kind of have to. But we'll get there when we get there. Hopefully it doesn't get to that point. Hopefully we do well, but it's not looking good. And in other news, Cowboys, my other team, same thing. We have a somewhat brighter future. I think Dak has solidified himself as a decent quarterback. I wouldn't call him elite, but I'd put him in that 15 to 18 range where he's above average, which sucks to say as a compliment, but he's above average. I could hope for that. Our running game, Zeke will probably be gone after this year. I'm hoping he has a decent year, and Pollard could pick up the slack as well. I still don't think Pollard's a top running back, but everybody's going to fight me on that, where it's, he just doesn't get the touches. Even if he were to get the touches, I don't think he could replicate what Zeke was able to do those first 3 years. I don't think he could replicate anything these top running backs can do in the league. So on that front, it's not very good. Our offensive line keeps getting stripped lower and lower. Receivers, Michael Gallup won't be back for week 1, but I believe they said they're very optimistic he will be back for week 2 or 3, which is nice. CeeDee Lamb is going to have to take a huge jump this year. He's one of the biggest question marks we have, which sucks because I know what Dak is. I know, as much as it's awful, I know what Dak is. I know what Zeke is at this point. I know what Tony Pollard is at this point. I know what our offensive line is. I know what Michael Gallup is. I don't know what CeeDee Lamb is. I was a pretty big fan of him coming out of the draft. I didn't mind taking him. Obviously, I would have loved to take a corner at that point, but we strengthened our strength. And he's not a bad receiver. It's not even that he's inconsistent, but he did have a lot of drops last year. But he's going to need to clean those up if he's going to be our number 1 receiver, because now he's going to be facing all the top competition. So hopefully he's able to face that. Our defense, we lost Randy Gregory, which is still a very tough loss. Of course, we still have Micah Parsons, which I think will be the Defensive Player of the Year this year. I still think he's going to be great. I think he's going to take an even bigger step forward and be fantastic for us. Trayvon Diggs, I still have a lot of faith in him. He's a weird corner in the sense of he's going to try to bait the ball a lot, and that's going to get him burned sometimes, but that's also going to get you picks. I don't think he's going to be as prolific with the picks as he was last year, but I do think he will be better. But I want to talk basically just all about Cowboys news, Cowboys media, Jerry Jones kind of putzing around all offseason, what it's led to now going into the season. We had a chance to get Bobby Wagner. Instead, obviously, he went to the Rams, and we got past his prime Anthony Barr, who came from the Vikings. I was a huge fan of Anthony Barr during his prime seasons, like 2017, 2018. I was a huge fan. I think he's been past his prime for a while. I don't think he's the type of player that we're necessarily looking for. I see what they were trying to do as bring him in, maybe drop Micah down to just being a pass rusher, which makes sense. But if you want to do that, why didn't we just get Bobby Wagner? We could have had a better quality player. We could have had somebody who I know has a great IQ for the game. It's just, and Jerry kind of fumbled that. Obviously, he fumbled the thing with Randall Gregory because of a stupid fucking phrase. And now the Broncos have him. Now the Broncos have strengthened their defensive line. Now our defensive line is weaker. So not a lot of good things happening there. Tyron Smith, our legendary left tackle, is out for the year. I think they said it was a hamstring tear, like right off the bone. So he's out for the year. It was first reported he'd be hoping to return by like late December. Now that's just completely out into effect where he's just out. He's not coming back this year. And with how many injuries he's had piled up the past couple of years, people are saying he's looking to retire. I don't blame him. I think he's 33 by now at this point. It's tough. It's tough. You play for that long. You play a dirty game inside. It's tough. That sucks. Obviously, we have a lot of offensive line problems and a lot of offensive line questions. We let go of Connor Williams to the Bengals. I didn't think he was that good. I'm kind of glad he's gone. Obviously, Lyle Collins also went to the Bengals. He was pretty good for us, but with the price mark he wanted, I don't think we're going to be able to meet him on that. Nor do I think he was worth that money. But obviously, it would have been nice to keep him on the roster to have that depth. Also, to just have somebody in place. But to replace Tyron Smith, we signed Jason Peters, who I don't think he's near the caliber that Tyron Smith was. I think he'll hopefully be a serviceable backup, he's going to start for us now, but serviceable. Hopefully he's able to protect Dak's blind side. That's probably the most concerning part, is that it was our blind side tackle that went down and not just our open side. It's going to be a very tough year for Dak. I think this year is going to really prove if he was worth that deal that he got paid, or if he was just overpaid. Everybody knows my stance on it. I think he was overpaid, but I think we had to pay him because I don't think we had any better options out there. Nor do I think we were going to be able to get any of these young guys like Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, even if we want to go in the lower tier drafts where it's get a Justin Fields, get a Mac Jones. I don't think we're going to be able to get any of those guys. So when you really think about it, we kind of did the best we could. Obviously now the quarterback market has gone up, and if we look at it, we might have to pay Dak again, so we don't have to get in that trouble again. So we're in a kind of a little bit of a sticky situation. And then to end off on the Cowboys, like I said, I think Diggs will be better. I don't think he's going to have as many picks. Instead of 11, maybe he has like 4 or 5. But I don't think he's getting burned for 1,000 yards this season. Hopefully it's only like 400 yards a season, 4 to like 6. He's going to get burned on some plays. It's just how it is. I just hope it's not nearly as often as it was last year. And everybody saw that viral clip of against the Chargers where he's not even looking at the ball, where realistically it's not even his fault on that play because he's become so kind of hyper-focused on, I can't get burnt, and it's a goal line play, so realistically he doesn't really have to look behind him or play the quarterback. I don't think that would happen in a real game. I don't think a play like that would be able to happen. I think Trayvon Diggs is smarter than that. But at least our defense has some promise. If we're going to win anything this year, our defense is going to win it for us. In our division this year, I think we're honestly going to be second because I think the Eagles, with the additions of A.J. Brown, that tackle they got out of Georgia, who's huge, by the way, he's going to be fantastic. Jalen Hurts is already progressing. I think the Eagles have a lot of promise. Even if it's not there this year, I definitely think they have enough that they could win in the next couple of years and definitely be a very good team in the NFC, especially with the Bucs.
a lot of other teams going more downhill. Tom Brady's obviously going to retire, hopefully soon. And I say that, I've been saying that for 10 years, so whoever knows when that happens. But that's enough Cowboys talk. Cowboys are always on the talk of the town. I don't know why we are at this point, but to finish off this week, we're going to talk about Matt Ariza, the Buffalo Bills punter. He is currently 22 years old, and the reason why everybody kind of knows him, other than the gross thing, he is called a punt god, or he was called a punt god back in college. And I'm pretty sure he set the SEC record for most punt yards as a junior, which is insane. He was a great punter. If you want to talk just stats and just the player, he was fantastic, and he probably would have been a great punter in the league. But when we look at the situation that's arisen, so to start off, Matt Ariza and two other former or current, they didn't let that out, former teammates at his college, just kind of, oh god, it's awful. As I was saying, two former or current teammates of his gang raped a 17-year-old girl at a Halloween party last year. And I know a lot of people are reporting it now, obviously, or reporting it starting a month ago. And a lot of, I wouldn't say bigots, but people are out there saying, oh, well, why is it being reported now? She's just after his money, because her name's not even on the report. Her name is reported as Jane Doe. That's what they call somebody when they don't want to disclose their name. And to set the record straight for that, that's not at all what happened. The reason why it's taken this long is simply because how long the investigative process has been. Because she reported it at that time. They didn't want to report it, or they didn't want to investigate it. Finally, it's being investigated. Finally, everything's coming out. And this honestly makes the Bills look awful. And to people saying, oh, well, they didn't know, it seems that the Ravens didn't draft him for, if you look at an interview going back, they're like, oh, well, we see that he was the best punter available. Why didn't you get him? And they're like, oh, well, what our culture is, we don't really agree with that type of stuff. So it seemed they knew something that the Bills didn't, or the Bills didn't choose to actually pursue. And now it's kind of just seems it's biting them in the ass, where it's like, oh, well, he's not a quarterback. He's not a major receiver. It's just a punter. Nobody's going to really think about it with a punter. And it's really coming back to bite him in the ass, because apparently, even if they didn't know come draft time, which is now like 2 months ago, if they didn't know by draft time, they definitely knew a month ago when this whole thing started coming out and everybody was reporting on it. Everybody's talking about it. And instead of letting him go, or at the very least keeping their other punter on staff so they have somebody to punt in case he gets fined, suspended, whatever. Instead of that, they just go, yeah, we'll release our other punter. He'll probably punt for us, which is fucking insane when you really think about it, and just kind of shows how gross the league is, where it's, oh, we value winning over women's lives and women's livelihood. Because as much as Deshaun Watson's thing was gross and disgusting, and I'm done talking about Deshaun Watson, I don't think that's nearly as gross as gang raping a 17-year-old. Like, that's fucking disgusting. As a 21-year-old, I've never understood the point of people thinking, oh, I'm a great athlete, I could get away with anything, which kind of seems that's how he thought. Because it kind of seems like him and his boys were probably like, oh, we could probably get with her. She's underage, probably new to college, doesn't even know what's happening, and it's disgusting. It's fucking disgusting. I hope Matt Ariza, I hope everything that needs to come out comes out. And I want to say, obviously, I don't know all the details, and I don't want to rush to judgment. But from what we've seen, from what we've heard, it's a very disgusting situation. Hopefully it gets resolved quickly. Hopefully, because I'm pretty sure the Bills are getting looked into. Hopefully they get looked into, everything gets solved on that end. If people need to be punished, people need to be punished. If people are kind of lying about what they what they saw, what they did, meaning if they actually researched this guy, if they were just like, oh, well, he'll blow over. Hopefully, all that stuff comes out, and we could just see if it's true or not. But it's not looking good for the NFL coming off the heels of Deshaun Watson coming into Week 1. But just like the NFL always does, they'll figure it out. Everybody will probably forget about it in 3 months once playoffs are starting to gear up. But that's my final thoughts on it. And this is the end of this week's episode of the Unruly Podcast. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at Unruly Productions. Make sure to follow us on TikTok at Unruly Productions. And soon enough, we'll be creating a Patreon. I'm also dropping some merch very soon. I just can't speak today. I don't know what the fuck's wrong with me. And for that merch, no, it will basically be free. I'll basically just be handing it out. That's what I want to do for mine. I just kind of want to get my creative ideas out there. Me and Evan's creative ideas, basically. We're all going to be collabing on this. We're going to get some more guests in here. We're going to get a lot of things going off for this season. Probably for the Super Bowl. We're thinking going to Mohegan up in New Hampshire and doing some stuff there. But it's going to be a very fun season going into Week 1. And I just want to say thank you all for the support. I know our schedule has been awful since we started, basically starting and stopping every other week. You don't know if you're going to get one. You don't know what day it's going to come, if it is going to come. And I just want to say thank you to everybody who keeps coming back and keeps listening. I know basically everybody here is either a friend of mine, friend of Evan's, or even just some new people that have randomly subscribed. I just want to thank you. You guys know how much this world means the world to me, and I hope I can keep doing it. So thank you all, and we'll see you next week.